I'm sorry, no snorting.
Meeting is now streaming live on Facebook. Behave yourselves.
All right, we are live.
Hey, everybody.
I'm gonna share the stream on the Facebook event page. Everyone's still there?
Yep.
Okay. All right. We'll just wait a few minutes. We got 4 viewers so far. We'll wait a few minutes for people to join us.
Are they family members? Hi, viewers.
I don't know.
Maybe my mom's out there.
Now, you 4 viewers, don't get bored while we're waiting for a few more people to show up. It's just like coming into a room when there's a lecture. If you're the first person, you'll still stay seated. So stay with us. We'll be with you in a second.
Maybe they know what my flowers are that I found in the field.
I don't know if you can get a close enough shot, Katie.
Oh.
Marina's watching. Hey, Marina.
Stick them right up to your phone. Hi, Marina.
John Garvey said you really need to put some books on those shelves.
He lives in the house. He can do it. Jane Addams is still delivering.
Oh, no, honey. We have so many books. I have an attic full of books. I just haven't gotten them down yet.
Marina said hello, everyone.
Hello, Marina.
All right, just give it a little bit more. We got 6 viewers out there. John Garvey, I'm not allowed in the cozy room.
That's what my daughter calls the room that I'm in. I don't know where she came up with that. I think she was trying to get her kids to come and play in here. Because it's got the largest amount of open floor space, basically. So it happens also to be where I'm doing my work now.
Those are pretty empty, Barb, come to think of it.
Well, you see the one next to it, though? That's all my art books. So that's not empty. And then there's one over here. Those are all John Stephen King books. So that's not empty. Just
Those
the
are
middle.
Those are really nice bookshelves.
IKEA. I know a
All right,
song about IKEA.
Should we get going, you think?
Yeah, cut me off when I'm about to sing, Pat.
All right. Well, good morning, everyone. We're going to go ahead and get started with our Mornings with the Museum program. Can you guys still see me?
Yeah.
Okay. I'm just having some lag on my end, I guess. Yeah, thanks for joining us for Mornings with the Museum, our second week doing this. If anybody watched last week, thanks again for tuning in. This week, we're going to share our favorite stories is going to be the theme for this week. But before we get there, did just want to do a few things. First and foremost, let's go around and introduce ourselves and just say our titles here at the museum. So I'm Pat Kane. I'm the Public Programs and Visitor Services Coordinator for cultural and historical programs, mostly at the Museum of the Grand Prairie, but also do some other stuff throughout Champaign County Forest Preserve District. Barb, you want to go next?
Sure. I'm Barb Oschlager Garvey. I'm the director of the Museum and Education Department for the Champaign County Forest Preserve District, and previous curator at the Museum of the Grand Prairie. So there you go.
Cool.
Boom.
Katie, you want to go?
Yeah, sure. Hi, everybody. I'm Katie Snyder. I'm the Education Program Specialist. I was going to say here at the Museum of the Grand Prairie, but here at my house. Not sitting at the Museum of the Grand Prairie, but yes, at the Museum of the Grand Prairie.
All right, and Mark.
Yeah, I'm Mark Hansen. I am the curator at the Museum of the Grand Prairie.
All right. Well, thanks, everybody. And let us know who you are. Perry Morris said good morning, but we would like to hear from more of you. Good morning, Perry. Let us know who you are, where you're watching from. It's really cool. We really enjoy seeing where everybody's watching from. So let us know, you know, where you're at. We're all in Champaign County here in Central Illinois, you know, streaming from our homes. But you may be here in Champaign County, other parts of Illinois, or maybe even across the country, maybe even across the world. And do us another favor and share the stream so we can spread the word, spread this event as far and wide as possible, and you can share it with your other Facebook friends out there in the Facebook sphere. For those of you who do not know us, Museum of the Grand Prairie, it opened in 1968 as the Early American Museum. So 50 plus years of local history happening here at this institution. I guess I shouldn't say here at this institution, but you know, since we're not all here. Our mission is to collect, preserve, and interpret the cultural and natural history of Champaign County in East Central Illinois. And we are a facility within the Champaign County Forest Preserve District. So again, if this is your first time watching, it very well could be. We've only done this twice. This Mornings with the Museum, we're hoping to make it a weekly series again next week and the weeks after, to do it every Wednesday morning where we have a particular theme and we talk about things related to that theme. The theme this morning is stories, which we will get to in a few moments. But if you have any other ideas or topics or anything else you're interested in us discussing, you know, feel free to send us some suggestions. We'd love to hear from you, and we'd love to, you know, answer your questions. If you have any questions right now, we'd also love to hear from you in the comments section of this Facebook stream. Let us know if you have any questions for us. What are you curious about? Maybe you're curious about something local history related, or maybe you're just curious about anything. Ask us those questions. We'll do our best to answer those. So we got a good amount of people letting us know where they're watching from. Beth Watkins watching from Spurlock. Well, she might not be at Spurlock, but she says Beth at Spurlock. She says hi. Dale is watching in Farmer City. Anita and Kayla are watching from Thomasboro. They also said hi, Mark. John Garvey, Champaign Sesquicentennial Neighborhood. Claudine's watching at home in Champaign. Hey, Claudine, we miss you. Miss seeing you. Yeah, let us know where you're watching from if you haven't done so already. We love to see where everybody's watching from. Okay, before we get into our stories, just some shameless plugs of some upcoming things we're doing with the Museum of the Grand Prairie. So if you haven't noticed already, if you're following us on social media, whether it's on our Facebook page or Twitter or Instagram, since we are closed, and we will be closed until at least the end of May now, with the recent news of the stay-at-home order being extended, we'll be closed until at least the end of May. But we have ramped up our social media presence. If you haven't noticed, on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and now YouTube and Goodreads, where we're sharing pieces from our collection, stories of local history, educational activities, a whole bunch of awesome community collaborations and events, virtual programs and exhibit tours, fun facts, and a whole bunch more. You know, feel free to check us out on our social media pages to learn a little bit more about Museum of the Grand Prairie, what we're doing, and some awesome local history as well. Although the museum is closed, as I already mentioned, the Champaign County Forest Preserve District areas are still open for you to explore. They've been open for you to explore throughout this pandemic. The natural areas, the trails for you to explore. Feel free to check those out at those 6 forest preserves located throughout Champaign County. But please, please, please be sure to maintain a safe social distance while out there, and wear a mask. Strongly recommend you to wear a mask, especially with the new order that's going in place starting this Friday. If you can't maintain a 6 feet social distance, have a mask on. So have those masks on even when you're out on Champaign County Forest Preserve District properties. Some events coming up. We got another one tonight, another History on Tap event, Women, Alcohol, and the Vote. And our very own Barb Garvey is going to be putting on that program. Barb, did you want to talk a little bit about that?
Sure. It's basically what it says. I'm talking about how the sale of alcohol, or the movement against the sale of alcohol, which caused prohibition to happen, also was instrumental in helping get women get the vote. So there's all different angles to look at it, and I'm going to focus on a few and bring in some local history of that era, so that we're where our local people stood on those issues. So that'll be fun. And I was just telling Pat, I'm not ready, so everything you do is a work in progress. So well, if you have enough stuff from the tap, you should be happy to see it.
That's right. Again, tune in tonight at 7 o'clock, again, live here on our Facebook page for that History on Tap program. It was supposed to originally happen at 25 o'clock Brewery in Urbana, but with everything going on, of course, that can't happen physically in person, but we're bringing it to you virtually. We will not be, since we will be on the clock, Barb and I will not be consuming any libaceous liquids, but join us yourselves in toasting the 100th anniversary of the 19th Amendment's ratification this year in 2020 at this event tonight, again at 7 o'clock. Tomorrow night, going to do another live virtual exhibit tour, this time of our exhibit Blacksmithing on the Prairie. It'll talk about, that exhibit talks about the Cheesebro blacksmith family and their family business, the Cheesebro Blacksmith Shop. That interactive exhibit that's been here for a long time here at the museum. Got a whole bunch of awesome stories in there, not just about blacksmithing, but also of the Cheesebro family. So join us tomorrow at 7 o'clock again, right here on our Facebook page for that. Lastly, one last event to plug. This Sunday, Jen Grove, who is our registrar, is going to do Sunset Yoga in the Garden, a virtual yoga program where she is going to be at Mayberry Gelvin Botanical Garden here, but is going to be doing some yoga with anyone who's interested. If you're interested, check out Facebook event on our Facebook page, asking you to register there as well too. There's some more details for that program also. Sunset Yoga in the Garden this Sunday at 7 o'clock. It's gonna be a virtual program where you will do yoga at home while Jen Grove is teaching in Mayberry Gelvin Botanical Garden. Anything else anybody wants to share before we get into our stories?
Well, let's get to our stories.
All right, so the theme this week is our stories, our stories. Could be stories related to some awesome artifacts within the museum's collection, stories from previous work, volunteer stories. I even put in the Facebook event description, maybe some behind the scenes shenanigans, whatever staff want to share their favorite stories from the museum. I posed that question to them last week, asked them to share it. So who wants to go first with their favorite story?
I'll go first.
All right.
Mark,
go ahead.
No, go ahead, Barb.
You're too kind. So I came up with two. you know, there are a million stories in the Naked City, right? One of them was, well, I'll start with this one. In 2004, I did an exhibit about the Great Depression, because my parents grew up in the Great Depression, and I knew there were still lots of people who were had been children during the Great Depression. So it was from the eyes of a child, basically, is how I framed it. And I did, well, maybe 5 or 6 interviews with people from Champaign County, so that I would have some material to go with a lot of artifacts that we already have. And one woman I interviewed told me a story about, she told me many stories. All of them were just heartbreaking. But the one that sticks with me is there were 8 kids in her family, or maybe 9. And every Christmas during the Depression, her mother would go to Goodwill and buy a wool coat and cut it up into 9 sets of mittens. Sew them all with a different colored thread so they'd all know whose mitten was whose, right? And that was their Christmas gift.
Oh boy.
And and in the collection we have a quilt that was made during the Depression, made out of wool coats, out of recycled pieces of wool from other things, right? And it was just, I don't know, every Christmas I think about that story. Just how little people had, and they were all happy for it. Good thing for us to remember right now. So that's one. You guys tell a story now.
All right. Thank you, Barb, for the, we were talking before we even got on the live stream, that a lot of the times, the stories that we were going to share today are pretty personal. And I think, history oftentimes, at least for us, is pretty personal, with, the stories that we come across, the connections that we make with other folks, and the connections they have to their own history. And it really connects with us as well too. Who wants to go next? Tell another story.
Mark, you go this time.
Okay. Well, being the collections guy, it's really important for us to always remember that the reason we have collections is because of the people who use them, or the stories that they tell about people. And one of my favorites is an event I did at a previous job that revolved around the Tuskegee Airmen. As most people know, the Tuskegee Airmen, that whole experience actually started in Champaign County in 1941. And this event, we actually had one of the original Tuskegee Airmen. He was actually trained as a bomber pilot. So he was standing next to a B-25 airplane, which was the airplane that he would have flown. And as we were chatting, 2 nuns from the local parish kind of walked up and thanked him for his service. And they chatted a little bit, and he was telling them, what it was like to fly this airplane. And one of the nuns said, well, it's just unbelievable. It's just unbelievable what you did. It must have been, weren't you scared? And he said, paraphrasing, he said, well, I sure wouldn't do it today, but then I was just a kid. I didn't know any better. And that's, that stuck with me. All of the original Tuskegee Airmen that I've met have been, gentlemen, really easy to forget what they went through just to serve their country. So yeah, I think that's one of my favorites.
Cool.
Yeah, thanks, Mark. Katie, you want to go? Or you want me to go?
I had myself muted because the dog periodically barks. So if he barks,
Okay.
forgive me. Yeah, so when Pat asked this, I just thought about it. And the stories that touch me are the stories that when we're able to be part of bringing people together in public programming. And when we were at the museum, that happened at the museum. And now we hope that that continues to happen a bit virtually. But I was thinking about something we recently were lucky enough to do as part of our new exhibit, How Long Must Women Wait? Which, by the way, How Long Must Women Wait? That title takes on a whole new meaning right now, right? We're all just waiting. So as part of that exhibit, we wanted to talk about women of the past, but we also wanted to talk about women of the future. So we contacted our different contacts in different school settings, and we ended up being able to work with some young women in a group called Sisterhood at Franklin STEAM Academy. And we wanted to talk about doors that had been opened to them based on their own power and how they had kind of opened doors, and doors that had been closed to them for things that were kind of not in their own control. So we got an actual door. We got a muralist, Amanda Danowitz, to work with the kids, and their lovely teachers at STEAM helped them through this process. And it was really interesting because the questions to talk about the doors that have been closed, the things that the young women came up with were not at all different from the experiences that I had when I was in middle school all those many years ago. And when we opened the exhibit, women who were much older than me were remarking on how some of those experiences, ways in which doors have been closed to them as women, weren't that different. So that was kind of hard to hear, that things hadn't really gone that far in all those years. The ways in which they opened the doors for themselves were really beautiful to see. And it's a group that empowers young women of color. So for them to be able to talk about those experiences were really lovely. During the process around Christmas time, one of their members was very tragically and suddenly passed away. And we didn't really know if we would go on with the making of the mural. We didn't really know if it was a good idea, but all the adults, talked, and we decided that art can be really therapeutic, and we decided to give it a try to go on and finish the mural, and we did. In the end, the mural was dedicated to their friend, and you can see it online. We'll show it's on the one that you did, Pat. I'm
gonna share my screen real quick to this slide.
Okay, cool.
People can get a visual.
The fun thing, so we were able to have this opening, y'all, before all this went down. Really, maybe 2 weeks before all this went down, 3 weeks before all this went down, we were able to have the opening, and I'm thankful for that. The girls were just so excited. The girls came, and they were so excited to see the mural and see people honoring their work. And one of the young women said to their teacher, "I've waited my whole life to be famous," which I really loved. And I thought, well, that's a great memory for her and all her friends, that they're here together. They made the mural together, and now they're here at a museum, and people are honoring their work, and they feel famous. And I think when a young woman says famous, it means a lot of things, honored, someone's paying attention to their story. So yeah, we can't wait till y'all can come back in and take a look at this in real life. It's a beautiful thing.
And the exhibit was open at exactly 1 week before we closed down.
1 month?
Week.
1 week? Oh, see, my mind is like all
week.
that. Oh my gosh, that was a week before. Wow. I knew it was last minute, but I couldn't remember quite when. Time doesn't mean the same anymore, does
Yeah,
it?
time feels completely different now. Yeah.
Yeah, it sure does.
All right. Well,
How about you, Pat? Do you have a
Thanks.
story?
yeah, before I get into my story, I just wanted to go to the comment section real quick. One thing to ponder while I'm telling the story for the other three of you. Beth Watkins asked, I'd love to know everyone's favorite object in your collection that is not on display. So ponder that while I'm telling my brief story. See if you can just pick just one for the sake of time.
Yeah, because I want to tell my other story, darn it.
Homer Lake Interpretive Center, our friends at our sister facility, they also said, hey, Marina said to your story, Barb, good story, not a sad one necessarily, but one that shows how resourceful humans can be. We don't need much to do good things. And Marina also said the mural turned out beautiful. The entire exhibit is very powerful. So again, keep those comments coming, your thoughts, your questions, your concerns, or whatever else in the comment section. One story that I wanted to share, again, Barb and I were talking about this beforehand, and much like all of the stories that have been shared, you know, these personal connections to history or personal connections to, you know, experiences here at the museum are ones that stick with all of us, including me. One that sticks out to me in particular, which Katie was there for this too. Every year during spring break, we do spring break programs for when most of the school children in the county are out of school. We provide free programs for kids to partake in some hands-on activities. And one thing we've done in recent history is provide some quill writing activities. And I think it was last year in 2019. We were getting ready for quill writing. You know, we're getting the program all set up. You know, sometimes we have quite a crowd that's forming outside the door. So, you know, some people are itching to get in, but we're still trying to get set up. And I noticed this one woman was sitting outside of the room waiting for us to get started. And I thought it was just, you know, maybe she was here with her grandson or, you know, here with some other family members and was just waiting for us to get started and whatever else. But the program got started. She came in and actually, you know, she also participated in the program. She came in, sat down, and got to writing a letter, a handwritten letter using a quill during the activity. And she wrote a full letter. It took her about the full length of the whole program almost, from what I can remember. And she was asked about it. I think Katie may have talked to her and asked her, you know, who's the letter to? What's it about? And I think it was about, if I can remember correctly, she was writing it to her brother who lives in town that she had not seen for years. And she was reading the letter out loud and she began to cry. She was having this emotional connection. She came to this program to write a letter using a quill on a regular piece of paper, writing this letter to her brother, and she was going to go give it to him and go see him and stop by since she hadn't seen him in such a long time. And that one sticks with me. You know, I thought about that for a while afterwards. Like, she must have saw the events and, you know, planned to come and do this and came all the way here to do it. I don't know exactly where she was from, but it seemed like she wasn't from, you know, right here in town at least. And came to participate in the program, and then, you know, was gonna go see her brother afterwards as well too. So she had a deep connection as well. I got another story, and I know Barb has some other stories too. But could we address just real quick Beth's question? Favorite object not on display in the collection. Barb, you want to go first?
Oh my gosh, I don't have one picked. I've been trying to. It's hard to come up with one that is like. My immediate reaction is that's like making you choose between your children. I mean, honestly, there's not like I don't love every artifact we have in quite the same way, but I can think of dozens that tell a great story. that, you know, you just can't have everything out, right? So
Yeah.
I don't even know where to start. Mark, do you have a place to start?
Oh boy, that's tough.
See how I threw it to him? Wasn't that great?
Yeah,
Thank
one of
you.
the artifacts that I enjoy just because I think it's sort of a neat piece of equipment is the horse-drawn corn cultivator that we have. Was actually in an exhibit, geez, 2-3 years ago. Yeah, I just think that's sort of a neat piece of equipment and something that would have been really important to, you know, just about every farmer in Champaign County. So it, to me, that just represents a lot about our sort of our farm heritage here.
Well, you know, and just to piggyback on that, we were just offered recently, and I don't know whether we'll take it or not, a hand-drawn corn planter. I don't know if you've ever seen these, but they're like a box that with a spring on it that just lets out like a couple of kernels of corn at a time.
Yep.
And when you think about how much time it would take to plant even an acre of corn that way, and then to think of the massive amount of corn that's planted now, it's just mind-boggling the amount of work any simple thing took in the past. And I mean, every piece of agricultural equipment we have is like that, and it's just, those all are very humbling to me. I really like those, but there's dozens of other things too. So
I have one. My favorite is a busk that goes in a corset. One would think I wouldn't really love that because I'm not a fan of the whole shapewear thing, but the reason I love it is it's the hard piece that would go in a little slot in a corset, and it would kind of keep the woman upright, and you know, the reason I love it is because it's engraved, and it's engraved with a little heart, and it's engraved with some wheat, and it's engraved with a picture of a building. And so in the way back in the day, men might engrave a busk and give it to their sweetheart as a gift. And I brought that out to some high school students, and we were, you know, looking at them, and they were trying to guess what they were. First, of course, they couldn't guess what it was because you can't really tell when you look at it, that it would go inside a corset. But then one of the young women was guessing what the message was on it, and she thought it was a marriage proposal because it had a heart and it had wheat, like I'll plant a farm or something like that, and I'll build a house. And I really liked that. And then one of the other young people said, well, what happened if they broke up? And I said, I don't know, maybe they just took that one out and put another one in. There's a little slot to put them in. So I like that one because it kind of told a story in pictures beyond the story of just wearing the corset.
that's
Kind of told the story of the
a
people.
cool one. Mhm.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's a really cool one. Yeah.
That one's got a really cool story, you know, as you told. Yeah.
Yeah, we don't know for sure what the story is, but it's like with any other artifact. You look at an artifact and you try to figure out what the person.
Try to
Was
interpret your own
saying.
story. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Just to be clear, we have multiple corset busks, and so one of them we do use in an education manner, and that's the one that Katie takes.
Yeah, and there's one inside the little cabin in Grand Prairie Stories that's also engraved. So you can, when we reopen, you can see something similar to that one.
I was trying to think of one too. I always really like looking at there's a large collection of Time magazine covers. I like looking at those. I think, you know, just looking at each one of those covers, you know, they're beautiful works of art too. Whoever illustrated those Time magazine covers, they're from, I think, you know, they span a large amount of time in the 20th century. mostly in the middle of the 20th century. I don't know right offhand, but they just also, I don't know, they show little snapshots in history, big things that were happening at the time when each one of those Time magazines was coming out, I believe, each week. And another cool thing about those covers is on the back cover too. I like looking at those advertisements that are on there because, again, those are just other snapshots in history. The advertisements that are on the back of some of those magazine covers, they may include like alcohol and cigarettes, which we don't see on the back of magazine covers so much anymore. But it was just a different time than what we're currently in. So.
You know what I would say? I would say that this is a great question for like next week or the week after, because
Hey.
I feel like if we gave ourselves a few minutes to think about it, we come up with really good other things. I mean, Katie's was great, but I
already used my best story.
I'm still trying to think of it, of a good one. I mean, they're all good. So, yeah.
Well, we are at 10:37. Do you want to tell one more story, Barb? One more story for the sake. I don't want to keep folks too much longer. We said this will go from 10 to 10:30, but you want to tell one more story?
Yes, I want to tell my other story.
Go for it. You're the boss.
I'll make it quick, guys. So in 2008 and 2009, I was working on an exhibit for the Champaign County's Lincoln exhibit. So when we reopen, you can come see that. And I happened across, Abraham Lincoln had his picture taken in Urbana in 1858, probably, maybe 1857. And the photographer's name was Samuel Altschuler. He was, so I started doing some research on him, and I found on the Jewish American Historical Society's website a picture of that photographer. And I asked them if I could use the photograph in the collection, and they said, well, you'll have to ask Mr. Altschuler's great granddaughter. And here's her email address. So I emailed her, and she called me almost within seconds of my sending the email. And she was so excited to be able to share her great grandfather's portrait with us. And she actually even donated to the museum. But the thing that I found really interesting about that was that so there's a fun story that goes with that photograph. Lincoln showed up at Altschuler's studio in his duster and his white overcoat, and it was dirty. And the photographer said, you cannot get your picture taken in that. Why don't you put on my coat and have a nice black coat with a black velvet collar. And I'll share the picture of it with you. A second. I can't make any story short. Sorry, guys. And he put it on, and Altschuler, being a short, stout, Middle European, was much shorter and smaller than Lincoln. And when Lincoln put the coat on, the sleeves were 9 inches too short. So he looked kind of ridiculous, and everybody had a good laugh. But when I was talking to Altschuler's great granddaughter, she said, Mr. Lincoln put on my great grandfather's coat. It was from the point of view of her family, not from the point of view of Lincoln, which is the story I was used to telling, was from the point of view of Lincoln, right? And she said when she was a child, she took the picture to school. She lived in Florida, and to show it off at show and tell. And she was told to sit down, that we don't talk about that fellow here.
Oh, wow.
But as a grown woman, now she goes around and gives lectures about her great grandfather and his pal, Abe Lincoln. So I'm going to show you the pictures just quickly. And then, you know, I'm done. Oh, it was a wonderful connection to make. And again, a very simple thing, but a human connection with people out in the outside world. Let me see, share screen. I'm trying, guys, really quick. I get to see how awful I am at. Okay. Oh, that's not it. There we go. So there you can see. Can you see Abe?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
So there's the picture with Mr. Altschuler's coat on. Just imagine it being too short. Since Lincoln was skinny, he could wear it, right? And here is Samuel Altschuler. And then funny thing, Altschuler was an itinerant photographer, so he would rent a space for a while and then he would move on. And by 1860 or 1860, he had moved on to Chicago, where he actually took the very first picture of Lincoln with whiskers. So there you go. That's a image you can't get out of your head. That's
Hey,
it. That's another story.
Barb,
What?
Barb, I thought of a connection. You know how you couldn't see his wrists probably hanging out because he was too tall? It's sort of like nowadays in the Zoom things, right?
Right. Yes. Can't see what people are wearing on their bottoms.
Can't see my yoga pants. You can't see what's going on around. People frame it just right. They were doing that way back in the day, framing it just right.
Right. That's true. Okay.
Mhm.
I'm sharing the screen. I don't know. Okay.
Did you stop the share, Barb?
Trying to. How do I do that, Pat? Sorry, guys.
You scroll to the top of the screen, you click, you should have an option that says
Oh, yeah.
stop.
Okay. Stop share. Got it.
Yep.
Thank you.
All right. So those were our stories. Thanks for joining us this morning. Thanks to 3 colleagues here as well for agreeing to again help with this. And as Barb mentioned, maybe we'll continue our telling stories of objects from the collection as one topic in the future for another edition of Mornings with the Museum. But we miss you all at the Museum of the Grand Prairie. We'll be open soon enough, so stick around, come and see us when we open. Anybody got any parting words for the crowd watching?
Well, I was thinking it might be nice to reshare that YouTube video of the sisterhood stuff on Facebook right away after we're done.
Sure.
I'd ask everybody to send in their ideas for things that they would like us to talk about in the future. It may not always be the 4 of us. Hopefully we'll be able to incorporate our colleagues from Homer Lake Interpretive Center. And we'd actually also love to have special guests. So if you're interested, just let us know in the comments, or you can private message us or email us, however you like. Is that appropriate, Pat? Cool.
That's good. Katie or Mark, you got anything? No?
Nope. Just tune in tonight for Barb's lecture about prohibition and women.
Yeah, history on tap. History on tap at 7 o'clock tonight. Yep.
All right.
Thanks, everybody.
We do
Thanks for
miss you. Take care. Bye.
Bye, guys. Good to see everybody.